What is the ruling of Udhiyah? The majority of scholars are of the view that it is Sunnah Mu'akkada. يعني it is a Sunnah that is emphasized. Of course, if you are able to do so. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Kawthar, فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. Therefore, turn in prayer to your Lord and sacrifice to Him. Even Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhuma said, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam stayed in Medina for 10 years, offering sacrifice every year. This is narrated by Ahmad. What are the animals that should be sacrificed? The best sacrifice, if one offers the whole animal, is a camel, then a cow, then a sheep, then a goat, then 1/7 of a camel, and then 1/7 of a cow. All right? What are the minimum ages for the sacrificing animals? The scholars agree that Islam has prescribed the age for sacrificial animals, and it is not permissible to slaughter animals that are younger than that. Yani whoever slaughters an animal that is younger than that, it does not count as a sacrifice. And what are the ages? The Sharia evidence indicates that a sheep that has reached the age of 6 months may be counted as a sacrifice. A goat that has reached the age of 1 year may be counted as a sacrifice. A cow that has reached the age of 2 years may be counted as a sacrifice. And a camel that has reached the age of 5 years may be counted as a sacrifice. Sacrificing an animal that is younger than that is not permitted. If an animal that is older than that is sacrificed, it is permitted and is better. On whose behalf should the sacrifice be done? You know, the udhiyah or the qurbani is prescribed for the members of the household, because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the people of each household should offer an udhiyah every year. There is no difference between man and women in this regard. The one who is in charge of the finance in the house, he or she is the one who has to do the udhiyah, and he or she does that on behalf of his family. If a Muslim has a salary that comes to him every month, and this salary is sufficient for him, and he has surplus money, he can afford the price of an udhiyah, then in this case it is prescribed for him to offer the udhiyah. If he's unable and he does not afford to offer the udhiyah, then it is not prescribed for him to do udhiyah or qurbani or sacrifice. One udhiyah is sufficient on behalf of a man and the members of his household, and that including his wife, his children and parents, all who are living together under the same roof. Alright? One udhiyah is sufficient. It doesn't mean that the husband has to do one, or the wife has to do one, and then the children has to do one each. No. One animal is sufficient for the whole family. And the way of distributing the meat, as Ahmad ibn Hanbal said, we go according to the hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas, where he said, we should eat 1/3 of it, we feed 1/3 of it to whoever we want, and we give 1/3 in charity. And lastly, the condition of udhiyah is very important. Number one, it should be one of the behemoth al-an'am, camels, cattle, sheep, or goats. I repeat, camels, cattle, sheep, or goats. Any one of these. You can't do chicken, you can't do rabbit, anything like that. It should have reached the age stipulated in Sharia, as we mentioned before. It should be slaughtered at the time specific in Sharia, which is from after the Salat al-Eid on the day of sacrifice until sunset on the last day of Ayyam al-Tashriq, which is the 30th of the Hijjah. It should be free of any faults that would render it unsuitable for sacrifice. And there are four faults that should not be there in a sacrificing animal. Number one, an obvious defect in one eye. There should not be no defect in the eye. Number two, obvious sickness whose symptoms are clearly apparent in the animal, such as fever, deep wounds that affect its health, and so on. Number three, obvious lameness, which prevents the animal from walking normally. Number four, emaciation that leaves no marrow in the bones. The animal should belong to the person who is offering the sacrifice. Yani you should own the animal. You cannot take the animal of your friend or your neighbor and sacrifice. You can't do that. So the animal should belong to the person who is offering the sacrifice. Or he should have permission for that, either on the grounds of Sharia or from the owner. The sacrifice is not valid if the animal slaughtered does not belong to the person who is sacrificing it. This is all about Udhiyah that the Ummah needs to know, bi-idhnillah ta'ala.